Coming up this week, I land at 777-200 early morning in Dublin, Ireland. I used one of your recommendations for a place to eat in Dublin, and it was really, really good. And I let ChatGPT take me on a walking tour. All right, let's get started. Hey, let's go to Ireland. It's Wednesday, July 9th at 5:15 p.m. My sign-in time is 6:10 p.m. I am currently less than 3 miles from the airport. I have plenty of time. Hello, my name is Darren. I'm a dad. I'm an airline pilot. I'm a husband of a scientist. I'm a line holder for July. What does that mean? I have a set schedule. I can move my trips around. I fly where I want to, when I want to, within seniority and availability of the airline. So, I was supposed to go to London all month long. 4 trips to London. Sorry. I was going to London all month long. 4 trips to London, back-to-back trips. Meaning, 3-day trip, come home, and the next day, another 3-day trip. Well, that's not going to happen because I traded out of all those London trips. It's a jack wagon and a Model X that can't drive for crap. They're a horrible driver. So 4 trips to London, back-to-back trips, and I traded out all of them. So, and I dropped trips. So now, before this trip, I was down like 63 hours of trip with a credit. I had 2 Barcelonas and 1 Rome. My first trip of the month was Barcelona. It was our first office trip, a flying trip. I did that already. I didn't film very much footage. I was tired. It was a trip. My landing in Dallas was like a 7.5 out of 10. Not great, not bad. Landing, whatever. I was just tired. And I got back from that trip on Monday. Now, I was hoping, because I got back from that trip after going to Hawaii. I was hoping to pick up a trip starting on early Wednesday or Tuesday. Didn't happen. There was nothing open. They had a Hawaii open for the day. I didn't pick it up for whatever reason. So now I'm like, oh crap. And then yesterday, this was all that opened up yesterday was this one trip to Dublin. I'm like, well, yeah, it's fine. It's low hours, right? It's only 18 hours and change. The normal London trip is 19 hours and change. Barcelona is 20 hours and change. Venice is 21 hours and change. So it's down an hour from London, but it's not London. So something new for me. Get back again I get back on Friday about 4 in the afternoon. And my family, I mentioned to them while we were in Hawaii that we have a Z agreement where we might be able to get business class on Finnair. And I'm like, oh, Finland. I want to go to Finland. So we are penciling in going to Finland on Saturday. We'll see how it goes. Now, as far as this trip, the captain of this trip, I flew with him, but only in the simulator. When I first got checked out on the 777 last year, he was my training partner. Super nice guy. He's a former 7-3 captain, and 20 years ago, he was a 777 first officer. So when we got the training, he's a little bit leery of me because he heard from his buddies that Airbus first officers going to Boeing products don't do very well because they do speak different languages. I'm like, today I did a lot of studying and I proved him wrong because I do study up and above what I need to study. But being my first time flying with him since then, I guess I may fly with him. I guess it's only first time seeing him since my check ride with him. My wife said, "What if he doesn't remember who you are?" I'm like, "Well, normally we only spend 3 days together as pilots on the 777, and I remember most people who I fly with. I spent 2 weeks with this guy, so I would assume he remember who I am after 2 weeks. Maybe not. We'll see. But it'll be a new adventure to Ireland. This is somewhere I've been to Ireland before with my family a long time ago. I haven't been since then. Funny kind of story, randomly. Back in like 2015 or 16, airline I worked for won an award, and they gave every single employee 4 flights, 4 segments, a round trip or 4 segments, confirmed seats. So we used those 4 4 segments really, as 4 one-ways to Dublin, Ireland. And then my wife and kids used my wife's miles to get back, and I jumped seated back. But so this is my first time going back to Dublin since then. So let's park the car in the horrible DFW airport employee lot that is full of construction and potholes. They say they're fixing it and making it better. I have my doubts. And head inside. I think I'm gonna place a bet. I I bet I am going to be random by KCM today. I have not been random in months. I'm due to be random. So we'll head inside and see if I truly do get random for KCM. All right, let's go. So I parked my car and survived the DW employee bus drivers. Again, they only seem to be able to accelerate very quickly and slam on their brakes. There's nothing in between. Went upstairs to a very busy Terminal D. It's so hit and miss with the security in Terminal D. It's either crazy or there's no one there. Now, again, I go through KCM, known crew member, controlled by TSA, and every now and then you get random, meaning you have to go through normal security. I thought today was my day, but it wasn't.
All right, let's give it a spin.
It's been a while. It's been a while. I think I'm due.
Wow.
I think I'm due today.
All right, Mr. Bird, let's see. All right, you good today.
Wow. All right. Thank you. And once I cleared security, I whipped out my phone to sign in for my trip. Again, it's all electronic. Back when I first started flying, almost 20 years ago, I had to sign in via a computer terminal that the airline owned. Nowadays, it's via my phone and an app that the airline creates. After chatting with the captain, I headed up to the gate to get the party started. And if you're wondering if he remembered me or not, he did remember who I was, but not my name. So the captain remembered my face, but not my name. He's like, hey, nice to see you again. I've seen you since training. And he's like, man, where are you going to? I'm like, I'm going with you to Dublin. He's like, yeah. He said, I saw a new name on there, but I didn't put two and two together. So, yeah. You remember who I was? So that's important. All right, let's board. So once again, a 777-200, the 777-300 from my base typically only goes to London. It will be going to Madrid, I see, in January, though, so that's something different. But as far as the planes go and flying them, they're very similar. The flight decks are very similar. The 300 has a slightly different radar, a different CPDLC system, and beyond that, and they have cameras on the outside that we can see. Beyond that, on the flight deck, they're exactly the same. The cabin layouts are very different. The 300 has more seats and, of course, a first class section. But I kicked my bag into place, storing it on its side. This gives more room for our jackets in the closet. But stored my bag, sat down, and got to work setting up the flight deck. The rest of the crew arrived, we boarded, and the captain asked if I wanted to fly or talk to Dublin. I'm like, you know what? I have never been there before, so I'll be happy to fly. So I took the over to Dublin. Again, it's a pretty short flight. It's shorter than short for a 777 going across the Atlantic Ocean anyway. It is the first stop, headed to Europe anyway. Now, leaving Dallas this day, there were a lot of thunderstorms to the southeast and east of the airport. So we got a west side departure and a very quick turn once we left the ground. And then we kind of went around the west side, dodged some storms, and then we were vectored over to the northeast and departed the area that way. The weather the last few weeks or the entire United States has been not quite normal from what I have seen. I am not a meteorologist by any means, but normally we have storms in the springtime. These summer storms have been different, much more intense and growing much faster than at least the local news is predicting. Not too long of a flight. Me being the flying pilot, I got the second break. So went back to the crew rest seat, and I sleep pretty good in these seats, especially when they have the rear-facing seats. So I got all comfy, my pillow and blanket, leaned the seat back, and put on my mask and took a pretty good nap on the way to Dublin. I came back up front and began to prepare for the arrival into Dublin. We were assigned the Olapo for Lima arrival, and as you can see, they have all these different names, and the names depict on where you enter the arrival. So we're entering it at Olapo, but they all end at the same fix, Obinu, which is an initial approach fix for both runway 28 left and for runway 28 right. We're using runway 28 left. Being a new airport to me, I scrutinize this chart every corner. Of course, they use hectopascals for the altimeter setting, and the transition level is assigned by ATC. So it can vary. In the US, we use flight level 180, 18,000 feet. Other parts of the world, it varies. And here, you have to get it from the ATIS on what they're using for the transition level. And we put that into our FMC. I will show you that a little bit later on in the video. Now, again, we're coming in from Olapo, and you can see the course we're going to go. It's a nice round corner and up to Obinu. Now, there's only a few crossing restrictions on this arrival procedure. There's Olapo below 17,000 feet, or actually below flight level 170. You can tell this because the blue line is above the numbers FL170. Now, as we go along the way, you'll see other crossing restrictions that have a line above and below. And then it's just 8,000, flight level 80, sorry. So we have the cross those at 8, flight level 80, and see all the speeds depicted all the way around the arrival, ending at Obinu, 3,000 feet or above, max speed 220. So we lose 5,000 feet between DW 816 and Obinu if they have us descend via the arrival. When I see this kind of arrival, this looks like something they'll use in case they have a lot of traffic, but I predicted that we'd probably get a shortcut because it wasn't very busy, and I don't think they're gonna make us go 8,000 feet all the way around the arrival. I mean, they could. They were forecasting some very low visibility. I'll show you in a second, but I bet we were gonna get a shortcut on the arrival. So here's the actual weather we had coming into Dublin, starting with the white text with the word meter. EIDW is the airport code. 1007 30 is meaning the 10th day of the month at 7:30 Zulu, winds 280 at 9 knots, 3,000 meters is the visibility because they don't use miles because they are using the correct system of measurement. They have mist, broken at 200 feet, broken at 500 feet. Temperature is 14, dew point is 13, QNH is 1024, and it's becoming unlimited visibility. So they're thinking it'll soon be very clear. Right now, it's only 3,000 meters and it has scattered 200-foot clouds. That's what it's becoming anyway. So it wasn't the best right now, but it is getting better. Now, if you see all the red text below, yeah, that just means it's not VFR. It's not VFR during those times. But when we come in, it should be good enough for me to have a visual landing as a first officer. Of course, backed up with the ILS. Speaking of the ILS approach, we're going to do the ILS 2 left approach into Dublin today. And now let's brief that approach. An ILS is the most common approach we do as an airline pilot, at least where I work in the United States. So we're doing the ILS 2 left approach into Dublin, Ireland. Chart is 11-4. Last revised on April 18th of 2025. Frequency is 111.35. Inbound course is 278. We're crossing max EV at 2,500 feet. And we're going down to a barrow mens of 402 feet. That is under the Cat 1 down below. Pretty standard approach. And you see Obinu down on the chart as well. So enter Obinu if we're giving the normal, all the way around the arrival into the approach. On this day, though, they did cut us short and we kind of got a dogleg into final. We entered it just right before Latmo. But pretty standard approach. When I get down to the barrow mens, if it's bad visibility, there'll be a peppy on both sides of the runway, and you can see the approach lighting system we expect to see as well. Now, if we have to go missed approach, we go straight ahead to Gannett at or below 3,000 feet, make a right turn out to DW034, and proceed to the Dublin VOR, no faster than 200 knots, to initiate another approach or as directed by air traffic control. Pretty standard approach play. There is some terrain, as you can see, south of the airport, but north of the airport, there is no terrain to worry about. And go back to the flight sim now. You can see we've already begun our descent on the arrival. I need to change my transition level setting from 18,000 feet to 7,000 feet. That's why STD is in amber. I'm doing it right now. I'm putting in 7,000 feet as the transition level, and now it goes back to green, and we're all good to go. But we're descending on the arrival. Very nice, calm day going into Dublin, Ireland. And then on the arrival, many big airports have arrivals with crossing restrictions. It relieves the load on the air traffic controller and it gives the pilots something to expect so we have an idea about when they want us to start descending. Could we use this information to turn on the seatbelt sign, make some announcements to the passengers? Just go ahead and get an idea of where we're going to be all along the way down to the runway. Again, the 777 has an electronic checklist. All of these items you see cannot be sensed, so I have to tell it I've done it. I hit the recall button to check for anything that popped up as far as any kind of system issues, any notes with anything going on around the airplane. Auto brake is set to number 2. My VREF speed was set, and I've done the approach briefing into the airport. The next one to do is the approach checklist with the altimeters, but again, that is at below flight level 70. Going below 18,000 feet, let's go ahead and turn all the lights on so we can be seen. It's just habit. The lower you get, the more you want to be seen, right? So we turn all the lights on so that aircraft around us can see us, especially coming straight towards us. Having extra lights on daytime makes us be a lot more visible. Now, by this point of the flight, all the pilots are back up front because we're going to be landing here in the next 20 minutes.
We're all up front. We're making sure that anything is, any kind of last minute write ups that anything that broke on the airplane between Dallas and here have been put into the logbook. And we told the maintenance in Ireland so they can be aware of it so they can fix it. We have sent an electronic message to the airport, actually to our airline staff at the airport, letting them know our best ETA for being on the ground so they can tell us what gate we're going to. Many airports use shared gate space. So if we're going to be late or early, they can adjust where we're going to park based on timing. Airlines have lots of data. They know when aircraft land at this time of day, it typically takes this long to get to the gate. So we might land, say, at 9:04 a.m., but they know we won't be to the gate till probably 9:14 to 9:15 a.m. because most aircraft take maybe a 10-minute taxi in at this particular airport at this certain time of day. Now, on my ND, that's the navigational display, you can see the entire arrival depicted with the magenta line and all of the fixes, the any kind of crossing restriction, and what time we're going to be at that particular fix. You can see it all the way around, but soon all the way around, but you can see the runway and then the missed approach procedure as well. As I descend, I can see that little green line on the ND. That is where the plane expects to level off at the current set altitude, which right now it is 8,000 feet. So I keep that in my view in my scan to make sure that it's going to make all the restrictions. I'm also looking at other cues as far as the VNAV system goes. There's a VNAV arrow on my PFD and a corresponding arrow with the number of feet I'm off of my VNAV path on my ND. Those are all in my scan to make sure that we're all in the right space and we're going to level off at the appropriate altitude. But I also use this because I'm thinking, you know what? I bet they'll give us a shortcut. So I want to get down, maybe a little few feet early so I can get down level and start slowing down so that when they turn us in early, I can be dirty enough so it's not a pull out the speed brakes and dive, dive, dive. It's a nice gentle descent over to the approach path. Now I'm going to go to 8 times normal speed for this next portion just because we're just descending. Everything's been done. The flight attendants have been advised we'll be landing soon, and we've entering sterile cockpit and nice and quiet. Again, we haven't adjusted the altimeter setting yet because that's done at flight level 70. It's a bad habit of mine. I say 7,000, even though it should be flight level 70 going into Ireland. But as we come down, eventually they will give us a turn off the arrival, and at that point, we'll extend the center line of the approach and get dirty. See, I'm already getting dirty now. I'm putting out flaps 1, flaps 5, and I'll be going to heading mode here now and back to normal speed. And from here on out, it'll be normal speed as we go into Ireland. I'm taking the Lap Mo intersection, putting it on top and making a extended center line to infinity. But that's not the approach course, right? No. I'm going to put in the actual approach course number of 278, making the number big. And it hit 277. What's 1 degree between friends? And that goes out to infinity. So I can see the extended center line on my navigational display. That's been done. You can see my altimeter setting has turned amber. So I'll go ahead and put in the correct altimeter setting of 1013 hectopascals by pushing the button right up there. Bam. And we're good to go. Put it on both sides so we're all equal because I'm flying by myself. And altimeter setting has been checked off. The approach checklist is complete. The next one to do will be the before landing checklist. There we go. Life is good. Again, we're descending down and I'm just managing my energy, right? I put myself at 220 knots and we're going to get a turn tighter into final. The engines are at flight idle. It's nice, peaceful in the cabin. You can see a pretty good wind out of the west, which was similar to what we had that day, up high, and life is good. Now, there was a bit more traffic this day, they're being depicted. I think we were about 8 miles behind another aircraft, which is plenty of spacing. Normally on final, we're 3 to 4 miles behind another aircraft of our similar size. So I'm now squared off my base to final. You can see the lap mode intersection up there, 220 knots. Life is good. I'll go ahead and arm my speed brake because I don't anticipate needing my speed brake any further. My VNAV path, you can see, is right in the middle. So the plane is happy with my current descent rate. I'll be descending to 3,000 feet. You can see that green banana bar just 5 miles ahead. So I can take another tighter turn to final. Because again, we're crossing Latmo, and Latmo is at 3,000 feet and a max speed of 220 knots. So I'm doing 220 right now, so I'm complying with everything. I'll be at 3,000 feet well before Latmo. Life is good. Now, I don't have to be at flaps 5 right now. I could still be right I could still be clean, but having the extra drag help me get down a little bit quicker without having the speed breaks out. Again, there's no harm, no foul. I do burn a little bit more gas, but stable and peaceful is the way to go. Once we're down at 3,000 feet, we'll stay on this course to get a little bit closer. Then we'll get a more vector into final. We'll press the approach button, which will arm both the localizer and the glide slope to intercept both to descend on the approach path. And the whole way down, I'm constantly scanning my instruments to making sure the plane is where I want it to be, and traffic around it and everything else. Making sure everything is in agreement. Yeah, once we're level up 3,000 feet, we can leave the altitude pre-select there because we can intercept the glide slope at 3,000 since, again, lap mode is at 3,000. And 3,000 feet also happens to be the missed approach altitude. Now, I am self-slowing myself down to 200 knots because, again, I don't like surprises. And I believe we were clear for the approach just before lap mode, so a little bit later than this actual fix. But once we give it clear for the approach, we were told to hold at least 180 knots until a 8 mile final, I believe it was, and then 160 until a 4 mile final on the approach. But it's pretty standard. Many airports like DFW Airport want you to hold like 180 or 170 to a 5 mile final. So you use drag. So you pre make the plane dirty, so that once you get to that 3 or 4 mile, 5 mile fix, you can go ahead and reduce your speed quickly by just lowering the thrust being added, and then the drag helps you slow down really quickly. Landing gear on most airplanes is a giant rubber spoiler. Gear are massive and they create a lot of drag. As a passenger, you can typically hear when the gear goes down because you'll hear a sudden high increase in wind noise outside the airplane if you don't always hear the clunk as well. Here we are getting closer to intercepting our final approach course, 200 knots. Life is good. There it is. Localizer has been captured. You can see that it has changed from heading to loc in the middle of my FMA, and we're turning on to final. Life is good. The next thing we'll be intercepting will be the glide slope, which should happen right at LAPMO. So as far as my flap limit speeds, you can see them just to the lower left of my ND. Those are the fastest I can go with the flaps out. Now, the 777 does have a thing called load relief, where if I'm right at the limit of certain flap speeds and I bump up against that speed, they'll actually retract the flap slightly to give a little bit of flap relief. It typically only happens if it's really gusty outside. I have other clues as far as what I can fly. On the left side of my PFD, on the airspeed indicator, you can see the green numbers. Right now you can see a 1 and a 5. That is the slowest I can go with flaps 1 extended and the slowest I can go with flaps 5 extended. The green numbers you see further below that, that is my ref speed I have set via the FMC for my flaps 30, which I selected approach speed into the airport. So the ref speed is there. I fly 5 knots faster. That is my approach speed. We don't ever fly at ref. We always fly at approach speed. 5 knots faster allows for any kind of wind gust because it's very rare to have a smooth, stable approach all the way down, especially on sunny days. The earth heats unevenly, so you'll go up over trees. You'll get a big gust of wind or a big rise in the airplane, and that kind of thing. But go ahead and select the flaps 15. They turn magenta until they're actually extended, and then it turns to a green 15. And now you can see the flaps 1 speed is gone. So I'm going to start slowing down more. Here comes the glide slope. It's been intercepted, and we're going down the glide slope. Life is good. Looking at the front window, you can kind of see the ground there. And this is similar to how it looked going into Dublin. It was a little bit more overcasty than this. I heard it's very common to have overcast skies in Dublin early in the morning, going right in over the coast and into the airport. At this point, we've been switched over to tower, and we'd be talking to tower, and again, we'd be holding at least 170 knots until we're a 4 mile final. At that point, we'll get further configured and further dirty. We have to have everything done by 1,000 feet above the landing elevation, which is pretty easy to do. Most of the time, we put it in our final flaps about 1,400 feet above the ground on a nice, clear VFR day if it's not really a really super busy airport. But even right now, my engines are idled and I'm not slowing down very much at flaps 15. It's barely slowing down to the 170. So we're just gliding very peacefully and very quiet. There go the gear. And now, once the gear are fully extended, the plane will start slowing down a lot faster. As you can see, the drag caused by the gear doors and the gear going down makes the plane slow down, and the engines are now adding power to maintain that speed of 170. Once we're down there, I'll keep on slowing down because I'm almost to 1,000 feet. Once I get slow enough, I'll call for flaps 20, then flaps 25, and then I'll do flaps 30. You can see that the rain outside, that was just something the X-Plane did for me. It wasn't actually raining on the day I went in there, but the runway is fully in view, and we're verifying that that is the correct runway multiple ways. Again, I did say there'll be a PAPI on both sides of the runway. That's something we brief, because if there are dual runways next to each other, we want to make sure we're going to the correct runway, right? Uh, one runway might have a PAPI on the right-hand side, the other on the left-hand side. So you want to go make sure you're going to the correct runway. And again, we use all available resources to identify the runway environment. Even at DFW, I'll open approach on every single approach because, again, it doesn't cost anything. Go ahead and turn on the windshield wiper on the flight sim just to get the rain out of my view, and we're fine. Autopilot staying on, and I typically leave the autopilot on between 1,000 and 500 feet. I'll turn the autopilot off because, again, it's been a long flight, right? So I lean on autopilot just a little bit to make sure it's all nice and stable before turning the autopilot off and hand flying the plane onto the runway. There it goes. And then actually I turned off a funky way because I don't have my button set up correctly. So autopilot is turned off, and now I'm actually hand flying the sim. See PAPI on both sides of the runway, two white, two red, and I'm slightly above glide slope as far as the ILS goes. Now I'm slightly below the PAPI VASI, and I'm below the glide slope. That is just me and the flight sim because I didn't want to do this more than once. But coming down, and we'll keep coming down to about 50 feet. And about 40 feet, I begin the flare. 30 feet, I'm in the flare. And 20 feet, fully in the flare, engines start going into idle all by themselves and down in the touchdown zone. Go to full reverse. And I'll leave on auto brakes too, just to use the reverse as much as possible. Auto brakes clicked off. You get the master warning for the auto brakes being off. And I'll hand the aircraft over to the captain, and he will taxi it over to the gate. I've said in the past, the most stressful part of a flight isn't the approach or takeoff, it's taxiing around airports. Especially for me, it's an unfamiliar airport. We had briefed what we expected to have as far as a taxi instruction, and it is indeed what we got. We got Sierra to Whiskey 1, to hold short runway 34. Then we were cleared to cross runway 34, and the Whiskey 1 taxiway became the Hotel 1 taxiway. Same piece of pavement, but they changed names on us. From that point, we were cleared to go to link 4 and then over to gate 403. Pretty easy taxi in. There was lots of heavies coming in and out this day, so we actually held short of runway 34 for a few minutes before getting into the gate and shutting down the airplane. After the plane was fully shut down, all checklists were done. You can see it was indeed a beautiful day in Dublin now, becoming unlimited visibility, and it really was. It was a beautiful day in Dublin, about 74 degrees. They thought it was hot. I'm like, this is great weather, man. Everything fully shut down. I was now able to use my personal electronic devices, turning on my cell phones, turning off my airplane modes, and heading out of the flight deck, grabbing my bag and my jacket. Of course, then I go back up front one more time to make sure I didn't forget anything because I've been up here for about 9 hours. So make sure nothing left behind, put the seat up so the next pilot can get into their seat easily, and headed out to clear customs. Now, one thing about the Dublin flights that's different from all my other flights I do on 777 is we actually clear US customs on the outbound flight in Ireland. Now, going into Ireland, we do the normal customs, but leaving, it's kind of unique that we actually clear US customs before we even leave the ground. But as far as clearing customs in Ireland, it was pretty straightforward. It's a very nice airport, a very nice terminal. These sizers here before the escalator, I think they're judging me. I'm like, I'm not that wide. But we all cleared customs, headed out to the waiting bus. Again, the bus driver was visibly sweating at 74 degrees, and we were all like, this is great. Again, it was a beautiful day in Ireland. Head over to the hotel, and now for the debrief. So, Dublin, currently 10:57 a.m. local, 4:57 a.m. in Dallas. It's time for bed, but quick debrief. Got to the airport, of course, went to the crew room, talked to the captain. He remembered my face, not my name. Uh, he's like, "Hey, where are you flying to?" I'm like, "Flying with you." Very nice guy. Went to the airplane, The FB came in after me. I got a lot of stuff. I'm used to being FB, relief pilot, right? So I'm used to just getting the airplane ready to go. So I was in the airplane early. Uh, we were getting ready to leave, and 10 minutes for departure, we still had 22 people missing. I mean, they were coming on late flights from this craziness. So we waited for all the people to arrive. So everybody made the flight because it was one flight a day from Dallas to Dublin. And I decided to take a leg over here. Never been here before. Figured, why not fly over here, right? Two landings in 1 week. Crazy, right? Um, Thunderstorms were approaching Dallas, and there was some serious weather 2 nights in a row. Uh, we had normally had our now departure, and we were given a heading because of how crazy the weather was. It was weather just south of the airfield. So normally get like a heading on like heading 190 when there's some weather. Not today, heading 240. So it's kind of neat flying over like areas of the town I know because at least I live just west of the airport. But hand flew up to 10,000 feet. All right, turned on. We avoided most of the weather, but we avoided all the weather. Sorry, because we see it all. Uh, Climbed up. FB went out to take her break, and she made the breaks for us about 2 hours per person ish. We did have a dispatcher on board doing his annual ride. They do that, observe, and he's taking a vacation, doing two things at once. He was up front for takeoff and landing, and then in the back for everything else. He was in the chair for the first break, and I wanted the chair, so he had to come up front for that portion. I sleep better in the chair. I'm like, sorry, man. Uh, but I was up front again, just about 2 hours, and then went back to my break. I slept for an hour and a half, really good for a 2 hour break ish. Um, Woke up, had a cup of coffee, and then went back up front. Captain took his break, and we were already on the track at that point when I went back on duty. Um, it was fairly smooth. Talked to the FB for a while. A very nice lady. We had some monster turbulence just past 20 West, like bad. Not severe. I shouldn't say monster bad. Um, we hit it. It was very smooth, and then out of nowhere, just moderate, really heavy moderate turbulence. And we're doing Mach 8.3, thankfully. One is the Mach 8.5 according to flight plan. Like Mach 8.5 is pushing it, pushing the turbulence. We're doing Mach 8.3, and we're hitting turbulence, and the speed's bouncing up quickly, going up quickly. So I pulled the speed brakes all the way out, engines to idle, and we were still accelerating and bouncing and bouncing. Uh, it probably lasted about 3 to 4 minutes. Very annoying. I finally settled down, good, and then it was smooth the rest of the flight. Dublin was reporting some pretty low clouds coming in, like 200 feet and 300 feet, and mist. Like, well, this will be interesting because it's my landing, right? As far as visibility goes. Came in and they shortcutted the arrival quite a bit. I can kind of see what they're planning. So we didn't do the track around at all. We kind of gave a pretty good shortcut, for the heading. And I anticipated, put speed brakes out, got down to 3,000 feet, cleared to something to with an L on the approach, right outside the final approach fix. And then so I plan to be at 3,000 feet right before there. And I slowed to 220 knots right before there. Turned on to final, slowed to 180 just to keep it slow. And then we were told that 180 to final approach fix and 160 to 4 mile final, London. Coming in, thankfully, the clouds, the visibility was great. So we could see the runway even on the 8 mile final, just low clouds. Came in and made like an average landing. And then we were given a 25-minute estimated taxi in our flight plan. Like, why is it a 25-minute estimated taxi in? That's crazy. Well, yeah, we landed, and then apparently we used one gate here, or one or two gates, because the flight, the Dreamliner was leaving. My airline was on our gate. And anyway, we landed early, had to wait for a few minutes, and then yada, yada, yada. Got in the gate 403 Charlie, and done. And I am exhausted. I'm going to bed now. It's very ironic that my wife is now, our alarm's going off because she gets up at 5 in the morning. She's going up, waking up. I'm going to bed. We'll see what I'm going to do when I wake up. Also, ironic is this is my first overnight in Dublin, and my lead flight attendant, my purser, is like, this is also the first time they've shortened the overnight by an hour. It used to be an hour longer, so still pretty long, but kind of funny. First time here, and it's a shorter overnight. All right, bedtime. So I'm going 156 local, 756 in Dallas. I woke up. I didn't sleep a whole lot. Called the family. Of course, they're getting ready for their day. Youngest going off to summer camp, day camp anyway, and the wife is supposed to getting her ready. Kind of weird seeing them get ready for breakfast, and I'm going out for lunch.
So someone's gonna say, Darren, you should go out to like take a train out to the countryside. And here's the problem with that. This overnight is 24, 5 hours long, but it's not conducive to that because it's already 2 in the afternoon, right? So and we got in this morning, the Charlotte flight of all things, they get in like 7 in the morning. So they have time to do that kind of thing. But for us, it's a little more tricky because it's the timing. So I'm gonna say to stay in the city. Maybe next time I'll be more adventurous and leave the city. So for now, going into lunch to someone recommended me to go to called Zaytun. I'm on the way there now. I'm walking by the Spire, which apparently is a line at. And I've been here before. So, but it's a nice day again. I'm counting my lucky nice days here. Well, my nice days anyway on overnights. It's 74 degrees and clear skies. All right, let's go find some lunch. Good times. Oh wait, I gotta talk about this camera thing over here. That's fun. I heard when they first opened this up, they had issues with people doing obscene things to this camera. It would be neat to have someone on the other side while I'm over here. But yeah, pretty neat. Okay, now off to lunch.
So again, I am a creature of habit, and in most overnights, I go to the same place every single time. And you might seem boring, but if I find something good and I don't get sick, then I eat it every time. But in Dublin, I didn't have a place yet, but one of you guys recommended a place called Zaytun. It was a Mediterranean restaurant. I'm like, hey, I like Mediterranean food. Let's go for it. And again, it was a nice day in Dublin, and I laugh. And again, I know people get used to the weather where they are, but people are saying it's so hot. I'm like, it's 76 degrees. It's like almost cool. In the shade, I was actually a little bit cold. I did have on shorts, but yeah, I was fine. But of course, when it goes below 60 degrees, I am freezing, and people will laugh at me who live up north. Anyways, it was a nice day to walk over to Zaytun. Again, I love walkable cities. I do my best to avoid public transit if I can. Because one, it saves money because I'm cheap, but two, I get some free exercise out of the deal. But it was a nice walk over to Zaytun, about maybe a 35-minute walk from my hotel. Went inside, and just for my luck again, I was there doing like a sale. Like you got a certain percentage off of your bill if you came between certain hours, and I was there between those certain hours. So win-win for me. So I saved almost €4, not too bad, off the meal. I got the classic kubda meal. I don't know what that was, but it was good. I mean, it was meat, right? But I don't know what kubda means. I'm probably saying it wrong. And a Coke Zero. Enjoyed my lunch. I watched some YouTube. Again, I'm a huge car guy, and I was watching car sales, right? J&S Auto House. They have a car dealership up in the New Jersey area. Fun fact, about a year ago, 2 years ago, I was actually looking to buy a car from them, a Model X Plaid, 'cause they had some for like crazy low pricing, but it ended up being cheaper for me to buy a new one than buy from them overall because I would have to fly up there and then drive it down, and it just didn't seem like a good idea. But the food here was very, very good, not very busy. And once I was done, hey, I went for more of a walk and got some donuts that again was recommended to me, sorry, by one of you. They don't have pictures of donuts, it's just a donut place. And apparently, this is a big donut chain in Dublin because they were all over the place. I stopped by one and I got some donuts. I went back to my hotel. And on the way to my hotel, I passed another location of the same chain. But they were very good. And I do appreciate all of your recommendations for places to eat on the road. I take them and I put them on my Google map and I star them. So when I go to that city again, I see them on the map and say, hey, I haven't been there before. Let's give it a shot. So thank you for the recommendation for Zaytun. It was very, very good, and for the donuts as well.
All right, so it's 4:35 local, 10:35 a.m. in Dallas. I have finished the thumbnail for the Hawaii video, long video. Thank you if you watched it. And now I'm still on a walking tour made by ChatGPT. Again, I've been to Dublin before, so I've probably seen most of this. But just going to explore for a couple hours to get my steps in and get tired so I can go to bed at normal time here, which will still be 3 or 4 in the afternoon in Dallas. But I got my coffee. Yeah, Starbucks is consistent. All right, let's go explore.
And ChatGPT, it was a pretty good, decent tour of Dublin. It wasn't perfect. It was because the Google, you can make a thing in ChatGPT and get a Google Maps walking tour, but it wasn't perfect as far as the navigation and what I could see. But the most important part was I closed my rings, I got my steps in, and I saw parts of Dublin that I might not have otherwise seen. Again, I do find it funny how parts of Europe call places arcades, and there's never a video game. It's a lost in translation. I'm sure it means shopping of various types, not necessarily Americans, we call it video games, but not in Europe, I guess. But I did lots of walking, lots of exploring. I did look for a dessert, but I couldn't find anything that was lactose free because I'm not making that mistake again. But as usual, I do some grocery shopping on overnights so I can have food later in the night when I wake up, inevitably, and of course for breakfast the next day. And again, I love this IKEA shopping bag I bought a long time ago. I can't find the name of this IKEA shopping bag, but I love it because it goes so small it fits in my pocket. But I bought my orange juice, some protein drinks, some protein yogurt, and a big like little pie thing at a grocery store. Headed back to the hotel, and I was done for the day.
And good morning. It is 9 a.m. local, 3 a.m. in Dallas. Feeling good. Uh, Walked around quite a bit yesterday, got back to the hotel, and I was exhausted by like, oh, what time was it? 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m. Is what it is. Call my wife, say, hey, I'm going to bed. I'll call you in like 6 hours, 'cause I'm sure, whatever. And I did. Woke up around 11:30 midnight. This is 5 hours. And then talked to her a bit some more about another vacation she wants to plan for this weekend, a quick getaway. We were going to go to Finland, but Finnair has no return flights on the next week on Wednesday for whatever reason. And I need to be back by Thursday. I have an appointment to get my car looked at. So, yeah, not going to Finland. And coming back on Tuesday makes no sense because we leave here on Saturday, get there on Sunday, and then leave on Tuesday. That's kind of silly. So, we're going to go somewhere else, maybe Vegas. But talked to my wife, saw the kids, um, then went back to bed around 1 in the morning. Woke up around 7:50 a.m. and started getting ready for work. So I'm very well rested. I got a lot of rest. I was tired. But one leg back today. I get the last break because I flew over here. I mean, that's not written in stone. Traditionally, whoever takes off does the second break, but has the option to do the last break. And there's perks to both. If you do the last break, then you're well rested right before landing, but then you have a little bit less time to do the whole arrival planning and get back into the game kind of thing. So whatever. But the plane is in. Came in from Charlotte. Came in at like 4 or 5 this morning. We don't leave until almost noon. Um, Interesting. The Charlotte flight leaves at 12:30. So I think we swap planes. They take our plane, we take their plane. They get a much longer overnight because that crew gets in at 5 in the morning and leaves at noon next day. We came in at 9:30 and leave at noon the next day. Yeah, they have a longer overnight. Mm. But they have less flight time too. But anyways, good times. I do have to finish bidding because again, it is the 11th of the month. Bids close in 2 days. I am outside of the line holder span again, but hopefully I can hold a line again. All right, let's pack up the room and head to the airport.
So we all packed up and headed to the airport. Again, I comment on the weather a lot because I like nice weather, and I've had good weather for my trips lately. It's been nice. One thing that's unique about the Dublin airport is we go through normal security, we go through immigration, and then we go through US customs all before we got on the airplane. It's the only place I've ever flown on a wide body that we do this. Also kind of weird, they post the gates on that little LCD you saw by looking at the little TV screen. That's where the gates are posted after you clear customs. It's kind of like London where they keep it a secret for some reason. But went down to the gate area, scanned my badge, went up down to the airplane again. It's a very nice terminal. Very nice, very modern, easy to get around. They have great signage and lots of glass. Other places like London has lots of covered jet bridges because it's a little bit older. A nice glass and open and airy feeling here in Ireland, even though I feel that the weather can be a little bit. Anyways, these were all forward-facing seats on the 777 on the way back to the FNW, and there was a little bit of an issue leaving. This airport, I tell you that taxiing around can be more stressful than flying. Airport signage is it's weird in Dublin, in my personal opinion. I'm sure if you fly there a lot, you're used to it. but we were told specific taxi instructions to go via link 2, and there were multiple link 2 signs on the ground, and we were taxiing slow, and even the FB, the relief pilot, was like, "Hey, link 2 is right there to your right," because it said link 2 on the pavement, but also said link 2 ahead of us and on another sign. So we took our time and verified we are turning on the correct link 2 as the taxi instruction stated. Beyond that, climb out was fine. That first crossing restriction, we're behind a JetBlue Airbus that had a problem making the restriction, and even we barely made that restriction. Like that 4,000-foot restriction, it can be tough to make. And if the departure controller is on here, I'll say hi to you next time. She happened to mention on my Instagram that she was my controller. Didn't know at the time, but if I ever go to Dublin again, I will say hi to you. Of course, I was pilot monitoring on the way back, so I had the last break. Not a big deal. Got to Dallas. We were early, and then, oh man, we'll get to the gate early because we're going to Terminal A because there's no customs, but we were so early, we had no gate. So we had to wait down here and did the boogie, woogie, woogie, as you see on the Flight Radar 24, for a little while before getting to the gate on time. We made no extra money, even though we waited for like 20 minutes for a gate. It is what it is. And this video is long enough, but I headed out to the employee lot where I had a small problem finding my car.
Always good when I remember where the car is. And going wide. I see my car. All right. That's not my car. Where's my car? I swore I parked. I'll see over there. Oh, I did park over there. That's right. I went downhill.
And yes, I know we can use the Apple I Parked Here or Google I Parked Here to find your car. Normally, I don't have a problem. I have an app on my phone as well. Anyways. All right, so 3:41 p.m. Very annoying. We didn't have a gate. It is what it is, right? You're going the wrong direction. It clearly says one way only. It does. It says one way only. But it is what it is. We were super early. We left early. We arrived early. I think we were under by 2 minutes after all said and done. Whatever. Leaving Dublin, not too bad. I don't know if it's because they talk fast or I'm unfamiliar with the airport or both, but it was a little bit hard to understand the controller this morning. It's probably both. They were talking very quickly, and yeah, and even some of the signage. Hopefully I can do a sim recreation that's accurate, but we were told to go out link 2, or taxiing out of the gate, and on the ground it said link 2, but it wasn't where actually link 2 was. Whatever. Took off 10 right, which I find interesting that we used 10 right and not 10 left, because we arrived on 28 left, the short runway, and they're using 28 right, the long runway for takeoff. That makes sense. But today they're using the long runway for takeoff and the short runway they're using the long runway for landings and the short runway for takeoff. It's backwards. Because it's so short and we're so heavy, we had to use a max blast takeoff, flaps 15 to get out of there, Versus we could have done a much more normal takeoff off the longer runway. Whatever. Climbed up, barely made the crossing restriction at 4,000 feet. Up and around we went. The relief pilot went on her break. And, even though I went to bed early last night. I slept, from 6 to 11, and then from like 1 to 7, a little groggy. I was a little bit Had my Red Bull, felt better, but I was just kind of I was happy to go on my break. Having the last break, not ideal, but it is what it is. Much smoother flight this time, and I was up front, so we got well into Canada. Then I went on break. I slept right away for about 40 minutes, woke up, used the restroom, slept for another 25, 30 minutes, then I went to the seat and just played some Nintendo Switch for the rest of my break. I did have my meal up front, but I didn't have the next snack thing. I wasn't very hungry. Yeah. So Dublin isn't bad. It's just, it's just low hour, right? Probably mentioned this already, but if I didn't, here it is again. The FB, she likes Hawaii. All she normally does is Hawaii, but she needed to fill a hole in the schedule, so she went to Dublin instead. And I'm like, Hawaii is so low time, but it doesn't bother her. She's like, yeah, it's low time, but she has to do an extra Hawaii, and
is what it is. What else? She said she also has problems sleeping on the airplane, but she has no problems, being awake. She just can't sleep very well on the airplane. Thankfully, I can sleep on the airplane. But it's been a busy month, busy few weeks. I've been traveling a lot between here and Hawaii and trips. I feel like I need to count how many times I've slept in my own bed. My family wants to go on vacation tomorrow, and I probably mentioned at the beginning of the video, we were planning on going to Finland, but there are no return flights on this next week on Wednesday at all on Finnair. Zero. And it doesn't make much sense for us to fly in on Saturday, arrive on Sunday, and then leave on Tuesday. So we're going to skip Finnair and go to, I think, Vegas instead. My wife and I love Vegas. My oldest likes Vegas for this one John Rose chicken place, I think. And then we're going to go see Penn and Teller as a family. Flights are open tomorrow morning. The first flight of the day is open. The rest of the flights are kind of full until the evening anyway. But yeah, somewhere new. Still haven't gone to Frankfurt yet, but we're not doing it right now anyway on the 777 out of Dallas. So that'll have to wait till next season. No one's coming. But yeah, I will send it over to Darren to wrap it all up.
So Dublin, Ireland. Overall, it's a very good trip. People are great. The city's great. I had great weather. But it is the lowest value, regularly scheduled trip to Europe at my airline. The only lower that's a trip at all is anywhere to Hawaii. It's $15.45. This one in 18 hours and 5 minutes. It's about an hour and 20 minutes less than the average trip to London, the most common trip we do. Now, that little bit of a time might seem inconsequential, but if I were to replace a Dublin with a London just once a month for an entire year, it's about $5,000 less in earnings I'd have over the course of the year. Yeah, I'm not going to London, but you see what I mean? So there's a price to be paid for taking certain trips, right? We didn't have a problem with the trip. It was great going there and clearing customs before coming back to the United States. It's, one less hassle to deal with. And that's the only place we fly on my current aircraft from my current domicile that has US pre-clearance. Anyways, as far as compensation goes for the trip, I was paid $55.07.10 of my hourly wages. I was paid $90.42 for the international pay, and then you can see my per diem and the 401k contribution from my airline on the screen as well. Now, after the trip, we did not end up going to Finland because they had some strikes at the airport that were going to affect our return travel. It's a little bit too risky, right? So we went to Las Vegas instead, and in true non-rev style, we were going to take the first flight of the day on Saturday morning, wide open. We thought, it's kind of dumb taking like a 7 a.m. flight just to get there and can't check in the hotel, we'd be tired. The last flights of the night, the last two flights were wide open. We'll take one of those. So we stayed at home, had a great day at home, and then storms moved in. Lots of storms, delays. Then the second last flight of the night canceled. And then things started getting delayed. I'm like, honey, the green flights are now turning red. And we need to go rush to the airport. It's like 6:10 to take the 7:30 flight to Vegas. There's still seats open on that. We rushed to the airport. Thankfully, we got a whole row to ourselves. The four of us, 6 seats. A little bit delayed, but we got to Las Vegas late. Had a great time. We went in this 3 days, 3 nights. We went to Area 15, Omega Mart, had some amazing Korean fried chicken my oldest loves. Went to the Sphere and saw a Penn and Teller show in that time span. Penn and Teller was great, by the way. My wife and I gambled, and we actually both came home positive. So win-win. Of course, coming back home, we had to take the 5 o'clock flight out of Vegas because everything else was full. But again, we got a whole row for us on that flight. My name is Darren. I'm a dad. I'm an airline pod. I'm a husband of a scientist. If you don't mind, click subscribe, drop a comment, hit like. Have a great day. And as always, thank you for stopping by.